Hi, this is a short video to show the main features of ImmerGo for MOTU devices. The video starts with immediate high-level features and then moves on to more detailed aspects. Broadly, ImmerGo is an immersive sound program that allows you to move MOTU sound inputs in 3D space. The 3D space is depicted as a room with speakers in it. There's a speaker configuration capability which allows you to place the speakers, both normal speakers like that and bass speakers. The bass speakers are colored red. In this video, ImmerGo is connected to an 828 ES, but can be connected to any of the AVB capable MOTU devices. ImmerGo occupies a small space on the screen, so it can easily cohabit with the DAWs such as Reaper in this case, and also the MOTU controls. It also fits well on a mobile device. Below the 3D space are controls which we will now look at. The top row of controls are the track buttons. These are the mix inputs to the MOTU device. When ImmerGo is started, these can be configured to be USB as they are here, analog, or in some cases ADAT inputs. You can use the scroll buttons to scroll backwards and forwards amongst the track buttons, amongst the tracks, and then you can select a track. For example, I'm selecting the first track here. You can then move the virtual source. The spatialisation of the track happens by modifying the mix input aux sends, which you can see happening on the MOTU device display on the right hand side as you move the virtual source. The height of the sound can be changed by adjusting the slider on the right. If you are using a mobile device, then it can be tilted to adjust the height. Looking at the third row, there you can see the track volume slider, and you can see all the mix inputs changing relatively as you move the track volume slider. The spatial spread can be adjusted by moving the spread slider, and you can see the aux sends getting more and more equivalent to each other as the spread changes. There is a master volume slider also on the third row, and you can see the effect of this by going across in the MOTU controls to where the aux buses are, and you will see how the buses change as I move the master volume slider. The bus levels also change. A spatial recording can be loaded by clicking the Imload button, that's over there, and then selecting one of the files. So we can just click that and select one of the files. In this case, I'm pressing Scalandunis because I've got my Scalandunis as multi-track in Reaper. So I'm selecting the immersive recording that goes with it. The transport controls can be used to play, stop, pause, rewind, or fast forward the DAW. Reaper is the DAW shown over here, but any other DAW can be used. You can use the display button to display any of the tracks, and then upon playback you'll see those tracks displayed. So here I'm going to display a couple of tracks just to show that, and then I will play back those tracks, and here I'm playing back the tracks, and you'll see the buttons for the tracks moving around. And just push the volume up a little bit. Okay, so you can also play back multi-channel WAV files and spatialize the individual spatialisation for them. So here I'm going to be loading a go down to WAV control, and then I'm going to load a particular multi-track WAV file, multi-channel WAV file, and then use Imload to load the spatialisation that goes with it. And there you can see the names changing on the track buttons. And you can play that, or I can play that. And once again, you can, of course, display any of the tracks. You can also loop the recording so it'll just go round and round pretty much continuously. Okay, then you can record a spatialization by selecting the track you want to spatialize. I've chosen the first one here, and then click record followed by play. And let's do a somewhat crazy quick spatialization for track 1. This will overwrite any previous spatializations for the duration of the recording. So let's quickly spatialize that. And then stop it and then play back, and let's see how that moves. And there you see that rather crazy spatialization. You can have multiple users on different computers or mobile devices, each selecting a track to record, and the recording can happen simultaneously. You can save a spatialization by clicking the Save button and then entering the preferred name. Okay, so whatever that might be, and then save that. You can mute a track by selecting a particular track and pressing the mute button, and you can unmute it, and you can also solo a particular track. That'll mute all the other tracks then. So we can solo and unsolo. A track spatialization can be deleted, a particular track spatialization, by just pressing the delete button. The second row of buttons is all about reverb over here, and the first button is reverb distance, and if you select that, then when you move the virtual source beyond the speakers, then reverb will be added to give a sense of distance. The amount of reverb added to a track can be altered via the FX Send volume slider, and you can see that on the MOTU control. You'll see the reverb send amount changing, and you can do that for every track. If reverb track as opposed to a normal track is selected, then when you move the virtual source, you're actually moving the whole reverb bus. So the reverb bus will be spatialized. And we can see this happening in the MOTU control app. If we just move across to where the aux sends are for the reverb bus, then as we move the virtual source around, you'll see the aux send levels changing for that reverb bus. The FX bus control slider, this one over here, if you change that, then you'll see the output level of the FX bus changing. ImmerGo has a number of settings that can be accessed via the settings button. So the first one is name. You can choose any track and change its name if you want to. And then the next one is bass tracks. You can determine which tracks play through the bass speakers. So if we press that, we see that the second track basses is playing at the moment, but I can also choose, for example, bass 1 to play through the bass speakers. I can link any track. So if I want to link the tenors, for example, to the sopranos, that means if I choose a particular track and spatialize it, then the other track, the link track, will spatialize in unison. So if I push tenors, if I select tenors, then link tracks and link it to soprano, then tenors and soprano will spatialize in unison. There's an up-down checkbox, and this is useful if you are working with a mobile device. If on the mobile device you select that, then when you tilt the mobile device, the height of the virtual source will change. Okay, and then the last row of buttons are the rendering algorithms, very important. Different rendering algorithms spatialize in different ways. So there are a number of options here in ImmerGo. You can use distance-based amplitude panning, vector-based amplitude panning, layer-based vector-based amplitude panning, and so on. If you select a track, as we've done over here, and if you press distance-based amplitude panning, we can see that all the tracks are by default using distance-based amplitude panning. If we go to vector-based amplitude panning, we can select, for example, the basses and maybe altos, And then if we go back to distance-based amplitude panning, we see that we don't any longer have these tracks utilizing distance-based amplitude panning as their rendering algorithm. If we go to layer-based, vector-based amplitude panning, we could press the All Tracks button and say, well, all the tracks are going to use layer-based, vector-based amplitude panning. You may have been wondering where the spatializations get stored, where the WAV files come from, how the MOTU device inputs are configured, and then of course how the speakers are configured. And to answer these questions, we need to look at the startup window of ImmerGo. The first item to select is a working folder, and this is where the speaker configuration will reside, as well as any spatialisation and multi-channel WAV files. So let's choose a folder and go and look for that. So I'm just going to choose this one, which is an empty folder. Open that up. And next we've got to choose WAV files. So I'll just choose one WAV file for now. Let's go across to a place where I keep WAV files and just choose one for now. Open that up. We see the MOTU device name, that's the one I'm using. And then ImmerGo communicates internally with the digital audio workstation, and it gets MIDI timecode back from the digital audio workstation. So we've got to configure input and output ports. So I'm going to choose the IAC driver bus 1 and also the same one. I'm of course working on a Mac, and these are the internal MIDI drivers. Then I need to configure the inputs. So on the ES I've got mic inputs, analog inputs and USB inputs. Well, I might want to have a microphone input and then possibly one or two analog inputs, so I'll just choose one mic input and two analog inputs, and then I might want to have my DAW playing at the same time, so let's choose 20 for that. And you've got to push the configure button, and the configure button will inform you that there's no speaker configuration file at the moment. You just got to be aware of that, so it's not going to complete the configuration. You then need to push the client button, which will also say go ahead and create a configuration file, and there we are where we can start creating a speaker configuration file. The speaker configuration screen shows an empty room with controls at the bottom. And what you can do is you can select a speaker and then add a speaker to the empty room and then move the speaker to where you want it. Like maybe we just make it a bit lower. You can move that height. If you want to determine where the speaker is actually in your room, you can beep it. So here I'll just turn the volume down a little bit. We can beep that speaker and get an idea of where it actually is in the room. I know where the speakers are arranged, so I'll just place them as quickly as I can. So just add another speaker over there. Let's bring it down to roughly the same position. Okay, and then a third one. And so we go on. So we've got all the speakers up and going. Let's add some side ones. And we'll just keep the height the same there. And another one, let's add that on the right side. And then let's carry on and add two speakers to the bottom. Okay, let's make it a bit higher this time, so move up a bit higher and put the speaker there. And add the last normal speaker, let's add that in to the same position as the other one. Let's move it up to about the same position. Okay, there we go. And now I want to add a bass speaker in as well, so I will select the speaker in the same way and add it and put it right at the bottom of the room. Okay, bring it down to there, and this time I'm going to select bass to say it's a bass speaker. Okay, that seems all set up. Once I've done that, I can click the save button, and that'll save the speakers, and then I can go back to my controls and start doing as I did previously, moving the sound around. It's now possible to spatialize the microphone and analog inputs on the 808ES or any of the MOTU devices. So I'm just going to choose mic here, and as I move the mic input around, then I see the aux sends changing just as they did with the USB inputs. So I can choose analog and move the analog inputs as well. So if I had inputs to the mic or analog inputs, then those could be spatialized, localized as well. What I can also do is I can load up a localization file, just loading the Scalendunus one again, and then I can play that, and then at the same time, let's just knock that volume up a little bit. And then at the same time I could select a mic input, and then I could change the mic levels if I did have a mic input. And the same for analog 1 and analog 2 as well. I could change those levels also if I did have inputs there, for example from a live instrument. On a mobile device, you can install the ImmerGo app from the Google Play Store for Android devices or the Apple App Store for iOS devices. When you open the ImmerGo app, you'll see the same display as on a computer, so much the same display. You can go to settings and select the up-down checkbox, and if I do this and then I'm just setting the up-down checkbox in the settings display, and then if I select, let's say, the fourth input, then you'll see as I tilt the mobile device up and down, the slider will slide up and down, as will the little internal rectangle, and you'll see the changes happening in the fourth input on the MOTU control. From the mobile device, I can select a spatialisation file, and you will see the selection reflected on the computer ImmerGo display. So at the moment it's got the Scalendunus project. What you can see over here is that there's a different outline to the fourth display, and that shows that the mobile device has selected that track. So I can now from the mobile device select a different, let me go to controls, and I can select a different localization file, and you'll see that reflected on the computer also. I can play the DAW project from the mobile device, and you'll see the time code reflected on the computer, and it's also going to be reflected, if you can see that, on the mobile device, probably not too distinct. And I can stop it again from the mobile device. So as I said, when I select a track on the mobile device, you'll see that it's unavailable in the computer and vice versa. And so you can have multiple users on multiple mobile devices, each controlling the spatialization of their own track or a subset of tracks. There is a scheduler in ImmerGo that allows you to schedule a series of multi-channel WAV files together with their spatialization files. The schedule can be looped, and this is ideal for installations where you would like a continuously playing series of spatialized multi-tracks. You can reach the scheduler by first clicking on the WAV control button and then the schedule button. And that'll take you to an empty table at the moment, which you can start filling by clicking on the add button, and you choose a WAV file. In this case, we're just going to choose a very short one so we can move on to the next entry, and the associated immersive file. And we'll carry on doing that. So there's the Amazon WAV file. Thanks for Augustin Luder for providing this. And also its im file, its localization file. And then the last one we'll add is Electronica. And then what we can do is play that series of files, and we'll do that now. So the first one will go very fast, and then you can see the changes in the aux sends as we saw previously. Okay, there's the first one done. Now we're moving on to the second, which is the Amazon file, and you can see the changes in aux sends happening. What you can do is you can change the number of times each WAV file plays. So you can change that to to be, for example, 2 or 3, or actually whatever number you want. And as well as that, you can also have a loop on, so you can have the whole schedule looping. And there we see it's moved across to the electronica file, and it's loaded the localization file and moving the sliders for the aux sends. Okay, we can stop that and then save that. We can save that schedule, and it can be loaded again later. So let's just type in a name for it, schedule 1, for example. And then we can move across to the, click the WAV control button, and then get back to our normal display and carry on with recording or whatever we want to do. Okay, that's about it for this video. This overview has covered most of the features of ImmerGo. You can purchase ImmerGo from the ImmersiveDSP website, ImmersiveDSP.com. Before you purchase, please make sure that you download the demo, and you can get a manual from the downloads as well, and make sure that it works with your particular system and your particular device. Okay, so thanks for your interest in ImmerGo. If you have any questions, please do contact us, and thank you very much for watching.